Hi, I'm Kathy and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to start the cookbook challenge that I told you about before the holidays. So let's get started in making some recipes from this old Culinary Arts Institute Encyclopedic cookbook. It was my mom's. It was published in 1965. I've gone through this book. Some interesting recipes that I would like to try and some that I'm not really interested in. So let's have fun with this challenge this year, and I'm going to start today with potato leek soup. I've got these two leeks, and I don't know about you, but when I was growing up and I saw these things, I just thought they were giant green onions, and I never heard of leeks. But these are yummy, tasty, and it's going to be an awesome soup, especially when it's cooler outside this time of year. So let's get cooking. This potato leek soup recipe calls for leeks, 1 cup of sliced leeks, but I've got 2 that I bought and I need to use these. So I'm going to double up on this recipe. I've got some potatoes I've already peeled and I will dice those, and some celery, onions, milk, and it says to use 2 tablespoons of chili sauce or ketchup, and I don't have any chili sauce today, so I'm going to use some ketchup. I think that's kind of different. Salt and pepper, and that's about it. So and some cold water. So the biggest thing to do right now is to really clean and prepare your leeks. The leeks will tend to have a lot of sand inside here, so you want to make sure that you clean them really well. And what we'll do is I will chop them, slice them up in thin slices, put them into the colander and rinse them very, very well. Then we're going to dice the potatoes and we're going to chop up the celery and the onions. So let's get to this. You want to make sure you rinse these very well because there's sand that gets in between the leaves on the leek. And you just want to kind of separate the little rings that you cut so it gets washed very well. It's nothing worse than having gritty sand in your nice food that you cooked. So take the time to prepare it well. Now the recipe calls for dicing the potatoes, so we're going to make them smaller pieces. I believe that it's a good idea to have all of your ingredients prepared before you start cooking. It just makes everything flow smoothly. You don't have to go running around the kitchen looking for things. So here I have a nice bowl of the sliced up and cleaned leeks and the diced potatoes. I've got the onions, the celery, and the ketchup. Now and I also have a thing of parsley flakes because I don't have any fresh parsley. And then the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of fat, but I'm going to use butter because I don't have any fat. Like, I don't keep bacon fat on the side or anything like that. So we're going to use butter and a little olive oil. And let's get started with the first step, which is cooking the leeks. I'm using a large soup pot, and I'm going to put in probably let me see, how much do I want to put in? 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 tablespoons of butter. Right here, just throw it in the pan, let it heat up, and I'm going to put in a little bit of olive oil, just drizzle, probably a teaspoon or so. Okay, let's see what the recipe says. It says to melt the fat, add the leeks, and cook, but do not brown, and then we'll add the water. So get this going here. Throw in the leeks. Turn down the heat. I'm going to turn down the heat to medium. There's one that didn't get popped open. And again, the recipe says just, let it cook, but don't let it brown. I'll have the full recipe in the description down below. But I'm also going to let you know when I substitute something or I change the recipe. Like I said, I'm not using fat. I am using fat. I'm just using butter fat and olive oil, and not like bacon fat or something like that, or lard. I'm sure they used a lot of lard back in the 60s when they were cooking. Crisco was a big thing back then. The recipe doesn't say how long to let it cook before you add the water. So since I'm doubling up on this recipe, the original recipe says it makes 4 portions, so I'm making 8 because I had the 2 leeks. And it calls for 4 cups of water, so I'm going to put in 6 cups of water. I would put in 8. But I'm going to put in 6 cups of water. And I had some vegetable broth also, so I'm going to put in 1 cup of vegetable broth. I just think that would be better. And then it says to put in the chili sauce or ketchup. So I don't have any chili sauce, so I'm going to use ketchup. And it calls for 2, so I'm going to be putting in 4 tablespoons of ketchup. I would never have thought to put in ketchup or chili sauce in potato leek soup, but let's try it. I'm going to turn the temperature back up to high to get this to boil, and then we'll turn the temperature back down. And it says to cover and simmer for 20 minutes. The ketchup kind of darkens the color, and I always thought potato leek soup was a white color. We shall see. Now the soup is beginning to boil. We're going to turn this down to medium-low and cover the pot and let it simmer for 20 minutes. We'll be back. Now that the soup has simmered for 20 minutes, we're going to add in the rest of the ingredients except for the milk. The milk is the last thing until the vegetables are done. So this smells so yummy. We're going to add in the onions, and I used 1 whole onion. And I did 2 sticks of celery. Add that in there. And I have 4 good-sized potatoes diced. Put all of that. Give this a stir. Now the recipe calls for salt and pepper, and it actually says like 2, what is it? 1 teaspoon of salt and an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. But since I doubled up on the recipe, I'm going to only put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt because I don't like it real salty, and I like it more pepper, so I'm putting in 1 teaspoon of pepper. So we'll go ahead and add that. Since I don't have any fresh parsley, I'm going to put in this dried parsley flakes, and I'll put in 2 tablespoons. I'm going to bring the heat back up so we can get the vegetables cooking. And then it says to cook this until the potatoes are tender. So I'm going to set the timer for another 20 minutes after I get this to boil, and we'll check it. This makes for a nice vegetarian meal. There's no meat in here. I guess if you wanted to, when you're serving it, you could probably add some crumpled up bacon on top. Or you could put in bits of ham or sausage. And we're going to leave it the way it is, and I'll probably put some bacon bits on top of hubby's bowl. Okay, we're going to let this cook for a little while, and let's get the potatoes tender and try it then. Now that the potatoes are tender and the onions and the celery and everything, oh my goodness, it smells so good. We're going to go ahead and add the milk. Now the recipe calls for 1 cup of milk, and so I'm doubling it up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 cup of milk and 1 cup of heavy cream. I know it's not calorie wise very low, but I think the heavy cream will just make it really yummy. Now I don't know what the value of adding the ketchup or chili sauce to the soup, and I don't know that I would do it again. I'm not sure about that yet, because I like more of a white creamy soup for the potatoes and leeks, and this is kind of, you know, brownish, but we shall see. You know, that's the challenge of doing this cookbook challenge, is doing what it pretty much says in the recipe. There's some things that you change out, but okay, I'm gonna taste this again. Oh my goodness, it's good. It's good. We're gonna let it simmer a little bit, because the little longer I think that a soup or stew kind of cooks, the better the flavor. Now that we've let the soup simmer for a little while, I think it is ready. It smells wonderful, and it's time to look at this, how nice and rich it is. If you want the soup thicker, you could add some cornstarch or flour, but I like it the way it is. It is a soup, and we're going to just some out here and taste it. Look at how wonderful and yummy this looks. Ooh. And it's hot. So let's try it. Oh my goodness. This is so good. Came out perfect. You know, I was concerned about putting ketchup in it and that it would throw the color off, but it's okay. This is very, very good. Another great comfy food recipe, easy to make, very tasty. So we did our first challenge of the year in cooking a recipe out of this cookbook. And just to give you my opinion, I think the soup came out excellent, but there are some changes that I would do. Instead of milk, I would do totally the heavy cream. I think it gives it a good richness to the soup. I probably would eliminate the ketchup or chili sauce, and I don't know that it really added to it. I feel like it made the color of the soup a little darker, and I like for my potato leek soup to be more on the white side. I know I use the entire leek, and some people don't like using the dark green part. You can have that option, but I think it all tastes good. And so what else? You know, I might even add a little bit of white cooking wine or sherry in it. I think that would be excellent. But all in all, it was an easy recipe to follow. So I hope you like this video and give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe down below and click on that little bell so you don't miss next week's cookbook challenge. What am I gonna make next week from here? See you guys. Bye.